Welcome back. We start with our breaking news. Self-proclaimed prophet Shepherd Bushiri has left the country. He says in a statement that he and his wife temporarily left for Malawi due to safety concerns. He says they will only avail themselves once there's an agreement to give him a fair, just and impartial trial. The pair, or rather, charges of fraud, theft and money laundering and are currently out on bail. Our reporter Tshegohaco Moagi has more on this. She's been following the Bushiri details for some time now. Now, Tshegohaco, when you were in court and Bushiri and Mary were given that bail, were granted the bail, what were the bail conditions? How are they out of the country?
Well, good morning, Masifo. So this is very shocking news indeed, because their bail conditions actually specify that they need to report to the nearest police station Monday and Friday between 6 a.m. and 6 p.m. The magistrate also mentioning that they aren't allowed to travel outside the borders of South Africa until their case is finalized, and that all travel documents need to be handed over to the eNCA and to the investigating officers. So it is quite shocking that they have now decided to leave the country. I mean, in his statement, he mentions how there are certain things that he would like for the South African government to promise them as a couple. So this is, of course, Shepherd Bushiri and his wife, Mary. He mentions that there are stuff that he would like for the South African government to actually promise them, and then they will be able to come back into the country. So it really is quite shocking that they were able to do this. But, I mean, according to their bail conditions, myself, they were allowed to travel between Gauteng and the Northwest province because they've got property in the Northwest and they live there at times. So those are only two provinces that they were allowed to travel to. So them being able to actually leave Malawi, leave for Malawi rather, is quite questionable as to how did it happen if all their travel documents were expected to be with the investigating officers.
And it also speaks to a defiant Shepherd Bushiri and his wife Mary, but also it speaks to South Africa and how, you know, we seemingly a joke in terms of people being able to leave the country even though they're not supposed to. Have you spoken to the National Prosecuting Authority, for instance?
I did indeed. I spoke to the NPA's Lumka. She gave us details about, she says actually that she was not even aware that this had actually happened because they're supposed to report to the police officers and to the police station. So she says that they are currently in conversation with the Hawks and also with the NPA about what exactly could have happened, and they're just trying to get information about what, how did this actually happen, that they were able to leave the country without the police knowing about their whereabouts.
And of course, this seems like a strategic move by the Bushiris. Does South Africa, for instance, have some sort of law that allows us to go extradite, people accused of crimes here in Malawi?
It does not seem like it, Masiko. I mean, when I went through some of the laws concerning the extradition, I saw that we do not have a treaty, an extradition treaty with Malawi. So, as you mentioned, it does seem rather strategic that they would go back to their home country. I mean, they were told not to leave the borders of South Africa, and now this is what they have done. And that then means that we could not see them for quite some time. They could stay in Malawi for as long as they want to stay there because we do not, it does not seem that we've got that extradition treaty with that particular country. And Masiko, also speaking to the lawyer, I spoke to Terence Baloyi, who is the lawyer for Bushiri and Mary and Shepherd Bushiri, and he mentioned to me that it is what is written in that particular Facebook post. However, Ephraim, who is also a spokesperson for the Bushiri couple, I asked him if it's true that the self-proclaimed prophet and his wife are back in Malawi, and his response was, it's true. So we know that this is now currently what has happened, but it does seem that because of that particular agreement that South Africa has with Malawi, doesn't have with Malawi, so to speak, then we might not see this particular couple for quite some time. They may decide to stay in Malawi.
Now, of course, in this statement that Shepherd Bushiri released, he mentions quite a few things, demands really, but we'll talk about all the demands later. The first one is about the police officers who've been investigating Shepherd Bushiri and his wife Mary, and you've been privy to some court documents, charge sheets, for instance. Does the couple ever mention anything about feeling in danger because of police officers that are involved in investigating them?
Not at all. I mean, with the affidavits that were read out in court, there was no point where they actually said that they fear for their lives if they were to be released on bail, and they would actually like for certain things to happen if they were released on bail. But we do understand that he's also mentioning in that particular statement, Masego, that that there are cases that have been ongoing against him and his wife since 2019 rather, and they have not been finalized. So he does say that he now say that there are some officers that he's apparently afraid of, and they've apparently threatened him and his wife, but we have heard nothing of it. This was the first time that we've heard about this particular incident.
Well, thank you very much, Tshegohaco Moagi, my colleague and reporter who's been covering the Bushiris and their court cases for some time now.